close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Star Sport podcast. I'm Jack McCarran of the Southern Star, and I'm joined as always by Star Sport Editor Kieran McCarthy. On today's show we'll be joined by Castlehaven Senior Football Manager Mike O'Brien as we preview their clash with Fermoy in the first round of the Cork Senior Football Championship this weekend.
And we'll also take a look at all the other games involving West Cork teams this weekend.
But first, Kieran, the O'Donovan Rossa under-21s were celebrating a famous win last weekend as they saw off Dohenys in the Carrigaline under-21A football final. Kieran, a big win for the Skib men in dramatic circumstances, with super sub Jamie Howerton bagging the winner in injury time. Super
sub is the right way to describe Jamie Howerton, Jack. In the 63rd minute, up he popped with the winning goal and Skib won 1-9 to 10 points. Fantastic win for Skib. They haven't won this competition since 2011, and a good omen there was when they last won the Carrigaline under-21A football championship. They went on to win the county title, but we won't put too much pressure on them at this early stage. But no, fantastic for Skib. Great game of football, hard-hitting game of football. Dohenys were the slight favourites coming into this game, and they might feel like they let this one slip. They played well in the second half, Dohenys, but they had a couple of bad wides. It could be one that they think that got away, but that won't bother Skib. It's a huge win for Skibbereen, and we've got to remember that this team was under 21B last year, so they've now won the Carrigaline under 21B championship and the Carrigaline under 21A championship in successive seasons, which is absolutely fantastic. And what I like about this O'Donovan Rossa story, Jack, is that they were a club that took the decision to take one step back last year when they regraded down to the B grade, because instead of going up to the A grade last year and possibly losing their first round and under 21 is knockout, they decided to take that step back and get there and hopefully get games for their players. They did. They got 3 or 4 games in Carrigaline last year, and that momentum has carried them on this year. So it just goes to show other clubs out there that who hang on to their status, either whether it could be hang on to their senior status or hang on to their A grade, that sometimes it's worth putting the interests of the players first and doing what's best for the players rather than...
But putting the players first, Kieran, rarely comes into the minds of some GAA administrators, does it?
And that's exactly it, because the decisions are taken by people off the field and people in boardrooms, and
who only want to see their club play in the senior championship or the A championship, with no regard for maybe a struggling club whose players just aren't cut out for that level, which I would say happens in many clubs across Cork.
Because even if we're looking locally again, Bantry Blues this year at under 21 level again here in West Cork, they regraded down to the under 21B championship because for the previous 4 years at the under 21A championship, they lost in the first game every year. So your young fellas there training for weeks on end, months on end, you could say, challenge games in preparation for the first round of the local championship. They lose that game and their season is finished. And what Bantry were finding is that fellas of them were just dropping off the panel. So they decided this year to regrade down to under 21B. Unfortunately, they lost their first game to Kilmacabea, but still it was great to see that the club took that decision that was in the best interest of the players, in the hope that they get more games. The more games they get, the more you develop, they'll progress, and then there's a knock-on effect within the club. Like Skibbereen now will feel the benefit of the under 21A win because they have a load of the young fellas in with the seniors, so that's a big boost for the club.
Well, it's kind of like the conversation that's ongoing in the wider GAA community at the minute about whether or not a second-tier championship should be introduced for counties such as the likes we saw in Croke Park on Sunday or Saturday, Leitrim and Derry contesting the national final. Because the reality is, most counties never, ever will come close to playing in an All-Ireland final in Croke Park. But some within some of the smaller counties still insist on saying they want to play in the number 1 All-Ireland championship, despite the fact that they have no chance of winning, because they're afraid it doesn't, a B, for example, championship, wouldn't have the same luster. But the reality is, if you're contesting any final, especially a national final, it doesn't matter what letter is beside the title. So I think Skibbereen showed how it can benefit, because they went into B last year, got some momentum, won the B championship, came back up, and now they're the A champions. And Kieran, they weren't the only Skibbereen outfit celebrating last weekend. Skibbereen Rugby Club also had reason to celebrate over the weekend as they secured their place in the Under-18 All-Ireland final by beating Ballinasloe by 14 points to 3 in Limerick last Saturday.
Yeah, it's been a good weekend and a good couple of weeks for sport in Skibbereen. There's an interesting link there, Jack. Jamie Shanahan scored 2 tries for Skibbereen's under-18s in that semi-final there against Ballinasloe, and then he lined out for the under-21 footballers on Sunday. So he had a pretty busy weekend. I'd say his legs were fairly tired come Sunday night, but he finished with a place in an All-Ireland final and also an under-21 West Cork A winners medal. And there was also a couple of more fellas. Oisin Lucy is someone who's involved in both squads too, and so was Darren Daly, but he got injured in Skibbereen Rugby's Munster Cup final win there recently. He broke his collarbone, so he was out of action last weekend. But like you said, Jack, fantastic weekend for Skibbereen Rugby Club. They're now through to an All-Ireland final, and so are Bandon under 16s. They won their All-Ireland semi-final at Limerick last weekend. It was a double-header with the 2 West Cork teams winning. So it's been a theme of this podcast over the last couple of weeks, but West Cork Rugby is really on the rise, and it's great to see another 2 local teams get through to All-Ireland finals, and fingers crossed on, I think it's the weekend after next, Saturday
April 13th, I think.
April 13th, yeah, that we'll be toasting All-Ireland success.
Yeah, and we have a West Cork Rugby special planned in the pipeline, so that'll probably come out around those 2 games. We'll see. Watch this space. Okay, well, we'll leave it there now from our weekend review. And in part 2, we'll be previewing the Senior Football Championship games taking place across the county this weekend.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Welcome back to the Star Sport Podcast, and as we mentioned in part 1, the Cork Senior Football Championship gets underway for the clubs this weekend, and as always, there's a huge West Cork interest. In a few minutes, we'll speak to Castlehaven manager Mike O'Brien, but first I'll just give a quick rundown of all the fixtures happening across the county this weekend. On Friday evening in the Senior Football Championship, Mallow take on Kiskeen at 7:30 at Glantane. And on Saturday in the Senior Football Championship again, we have Clyde Rovers versus St Finbars. That's at 6:15 at Carrigaline. And that's a double header with Valley Rovers versus Nemo Rangers even, which throws in at 7:30. Newcestown take on Clonakilty at 6:15 at Dunmanway. O'Donovan Rossa play Carrigaline, also at 6:15. That's in Clodove. And in the Premier Intermediate Football Championship, also on Saturday, Bandon versus Newmarket at 6:15. On Sunday then, in the Premier Intermediate, we've got Bantry Blues versus Nemo Rangers. That's at 3:00 in Kilmurray. Also in the Premier Intermediate, Castletown Bear take on Canturk at 3:00. That's at Ballingeary. Sticking with Premier Intermediate again, St Michael's versus Macroom at 2 p.m. at Coachford. And then Senior Football Championship, Dohenys take on St Nicholas at 2 p.m. at Brinny, while Castlehaven take on Fermoy at 4:15, also at Brinny. There's also Premier Intermediate action with Ahada and the Piercig at Parkyrin, and Bishopstown up against Douglas at 4:45 in the Senior Football Championship, also at Parkyrin. Now, after that mouthful, I'll just remind you to take a look at the Cork GAA website again, because I'm pretty sure no one in the right minds could have followed my mumbling there. So the Cork website has all the fixtures. But Kieran, we're just going to focus on the Senior Football Championship matches involving the West Cork teams. And I suppose a good place to start is probably Clonakilty and Newcestown on Saturday evening in Dunmanway at 6:15. This is a bit of a derby game, Kieran.
It is. I think you need to take a break after that, Jack. That was a mouthful, so you can take a breather for a second or two. But yeah, Newcestown, Clonakilty, it's a West Cork derby. The two teams met last year in round 2. Clon won that game 115 to 113 after extra time. And it'll probably be another close game again this year. As everybody knows, Newcestown are very dogged opponents. They don't make it easy for anyone. Clonakilty are hoping to build on last year's run in the championship when they got to the quarter-final before losing the Carrigaline Rangers. It's going to be a fierce, interesting game because both teams want to win because they won't want to go through the backdoor route this year. Newcestown have a huge senior hurling championship game against Bandon coming up in a couple of weeks. So as a dual club, they'll want to kind of, hopefully from their point of view, take care of the football and then concentrate on the hurling. But Clonakilty will have something to say about that. Clonakilty have a lot of Cork seniors in there. You've Mark White, Sean White, you've Thomas Clancy, you've David Lowney, you've a couple of fellas like that. So they're quite a strong team. Newcestown aren't going too well in the league at the moment. So it'll be quite an interesting game, but I'd say only a couple of points either way, Jack.
Okay, well, also on Saturday evening, as I mentioned, at 6:15, O'Donovan Rossa up against Carrigaline in a preliminary round game. Up in Clonakilty, Kieran, O'Donovan Rossa, their under-21's obviously going well, but how are their seniors shaping up?
There's a big link between the Skib under-21s and the seniors because they actually train together. So you can imagine training this week now, Jack, kind of with the under-21s after winning the cup. There'll be a buzz in training and they are looking forward to the game this Saturday night. And there's a big under-21 presence on the team against Nemo Rangers in a Kelleher Shield game earlier this year. 7 of that under-21 team started that game and 10 of the under-21s finished and they won that game. So you can see how important these under-21s are to the Skib team. The likes of Dylan Howerhan, there's an Owen Fitzgerald, Elliot Connolly is coming on board. There's a couple of young fellas like that. But then at the other end of it, you've the Donlow Hodnets and the Ryan Prices, the kind of the more experienced fellas who are still only 27, 28. So Skib are looking to make an impact in this year's county championship. They've struggled, to be honest, over the last few years. I don't think they've made it past round 3 in the last 3 seasons. They've 2 wins from 3 in Division 1 of the county league. So you'd be looking at Skib to win that game. Carrigaline will make it tough, but if Skib can win that game and off the back of winning the under-21, kind of it's a big boost to the club and it sets them up well for the rest of the year.
On Sunday then, Kieran, a big doubleheader at Brinny, Dohenys versus St. Nicholas. First up at 2 o'clock, followed by Castlehaven and Fermoy at 3:45. The Dohenys St. Nicholas game, Kieran, how's this one going to go?
Neither team will like me saying this, but they're both perennial strugglers. They really are, Dohenys and St. Nick's. Dohenys are coming off the back, as we know now, losing that under-21 final, and the under-21s are very important to this Dohenys team as well. You've Mark Buckley and Fionn Hurley in attack, Colin Barry in midfield, Stephen Daly in goal. Dohenys have lost an awful lot of players over the last couple of years, so those under-21s are quite important coming through. Both teams were involved in the relegation battle last year and they won't want to be involved this year, and it's actually a good chance for both teams to get a win under their belt and not be involved in that relegation battle. Dohenys lost to Bandon there in Division 3 of the County Football League last weekend. It wasn't ideal. It probably puts their promotion bid there, kind of puts them under a bit of pressure to go up to Division 2. Dennis Healy will be hoping for that win. Hopefully Dohenys will win, but you never know. St. Nick's are again, they're dogged opponents. You just can't write them off. So that'll be quite a close game, but fingers crossed that the West Cork team comes out on top, Jack.
Okay, Kieran, well, rather than yourself and myself chat about the Castlehaven Fermoy game, we'll speak to Castlehaven Senior Football Manager Mike O'Brien.
I'm joined now in the studio by Mike O'Brien, manager of the Castlehaven football team. Castlehaven kick off their Senior Football Championship campaign against Fermoy this Sunday in Brinny at 3:45pm. But before we look more closely at that game, I'm going to start, Mike, with a question that contradicts itself. You were in charge of Gabriel Rangers for the last few seasons. You won a county junior title there, a West Cork title. You've took them up to intermediate level, and it was a fantastic journey. But how hard a decision was it then to finish up there and come back to your club, Castlehaven, where you've been involved since you were a kid and you were a selector there and you won a senior county in Munster? Was it hard to leave Gabriel's, but was it an easy decision in some ways to come back to Castlehaven?
Well, yes and no, because I think probably hard first of all to leave Gabriel's because we had such a great success, but then come back to your own club and get involved with your own lads again was a great incentive for me, and it's a job I always wanted to do at some stage, so I'm back here now anyway. That's the main thing, you know.
Quick word on Gabriel. So what a fantastic journey that was. Like I said there, like you won the West Cork a couple of years ago, went on and won the county, went up to intermediate. You must really have enjoyed your couple of years there.
Oh, super. Like the people out there were lovely as well, and you know, like they all came on board. The lads gave a huge effort and a commitment to that year, 2016, particularly when we won the county, and played super stuff that year, and went up intermediate. They never before been up there, and it was a huge experience for them. But there's some very good talent out there, and I was delighted for Henry in that year, particularly in the year after. Then went up intermediate. We lost quite a few players, like 6 or 7 went away, immigrated, and went on touring and off to America and Australia and these places, and we lost a bulk of players that time, and it was hard to keep it going. But the first year up, we were beaten by Kilnamartyr in a quarter final, only it was very tight up to the end, and even being short so many players, there was a great effort put in. But I thought overall, after the third year, then for me it's time to go really. I mean, you need a new, fresh challenge, and players need a new voice. So I think 3 years is enough to say management an A club, I think. From
your own point of view, kind of as a development as a coach, what did you learn the most from your time at Gabriel's?
Well, I learned, my emphasis always is about bringing fellas together and as a team, and as a squad, more importantly of all, and bringing fellas in. And I probably learned that if you get fellas on the right frame of mind and fellas wanting the same thing, that you can achieve anything. And Gabriel showed that, from a club that, won West Cork in their lifetime before that, to go on and go to Munster final in that year was phenomenal, really. And it shows that if the effort is put in and the right attitudes there, anything can be achieved.
I could be wrong here now, but I think a couple of years ago you might have been on the radar of Castlehaven before, but you stayed with Gabriel's. But what is it about now that feels it's the right time to come to this job?
Well, I don't know, whenever is the right time, but anyway, before I couldn't, I was with Gabriel's at the time, and I found it hard to leave him after 1 year, the first year, and I said, look, I have to keep him in an early lease. So, but when Castlehaven came back in for me this year, it was an easy decision really for me to make, because it's a job I always wanted to do, like I said. And I'm looking forward to the year now ahead.
It's one thing being a selector with Castlehaven or with your home club, and you are a selector with the Haven before, but now you're the manager, you're the number one, so the buck stops with you. What sort of pressure does that bring when you're the manager of your home club?
Well, it brought an extra bit of pressure probably, but I'd bring that on board and say and use it as an advantage for yourself. I'd say it drives you on as well. And look, I think with Castlehaven, it's a kind of family thing really. Everybody pulls together for one reason, and that's why the club has been so successful down the years. Everyone give you 110% for the cause, and I'm not like any other manager that's been with Castlehaven before. You go in there and with the right incentives, and hopefully with a bit of luck you could achieve things. That's be my aim for the year anyway.
Talking about your management team, so is it Niall Cahalan and Sean O'Neill as selectors, is it?
Yeah, Niall and Sean came aboard me, and Niall was the first man I asked, because Niall would be he's a world of experience with Cork and with Castlehaven down the years, and he's been away from the club for a few years as well. He hadn't been involved, so I said, look, he was the first man I wanted to get on board with me, and Niall said yes, and I'm delighted to have him. He's a great experience and will offer a lot to us this year.
How much of Castlehaven did you see in last year's championship? I appreciate you were busy with Gabriel's and stuff, but Castlehaven obviously got to the last 4 cracking games against Duhallow there. Did you see much of them?
I saw a few of them. I particularly saw the Nemo game in Demanway, which they were excellent the same day. Nemo that day, Castlehaven went out and just plummeted them from the word goal, and really played really good football that day, I thought. And I saw the Duhallow matches as well, and even the third day were unlucky. Really the scores were like the same amount of scores, but they got the goals at the time, and probably gave away a couple of soft goals on the night. But I have to be proud of them as great young lads coming through, and I thought over the 3 matches they were a spectacle for football, to any championship to be seen, and I thought the level was excellent out of it, and they gave their all, and unfortunately and on the night didn't come true, but I think they'll learn from it though. When
people look back at last year's County Senior Championship, I think it's those semi-finals between Castlehaven and Duhallow that people are they laud and stuff, because it was brilliant football. But is it your job now to get Castlehaven playing better again this year, and how do you do that?
Well, the incentive is trying to improve a bit more, I think, because like I said, the younger lads will probably learn a lot from last year, and they should improve it extra bit from that. And I think confidence is a big thing in football, and if you can get a winning formula into the system, and fellas believe in themselves, then anything is possible. I think this team can progress more this year. I really believe that.
And how can they progress? What can you bring? Is it new ideas? Is it a freshness? What can you do to help this team?
New ideas and a freshness and to enjoy their football more importantly. You must enjoy. I think at times fellas can go there and be too tensed up and afraid to go out and express themselves on the pitch. And I believe that if they go out there and I'll be silly in that to our lads that have been all along there to go out and just enjoy their game and perform. And I think, I believe they can do that this year.
we had an interview there with you, I suppose, when you got the job back in at the start of the year, and you were talking about, Mike, about getting players to play with a smile on their face. Is that what you're kind of saying there? Like, if they enjoy their football, that the results will come, the performances will come then?
Well, I think it helps, because I think, like, if your head is down, if you're not happy, not enjoying, or not happy, it's like anything in life. The whole thing will kind of fall down. And whereas if you enjoy your game and you want to be there, and that will your game will improve big time. Then I think, and I think that's showing in our games and our training sessions since I came in. The effort's been outstanding from them all.
It's definitely shown in the results in Division 2 of the County Football League. 4 wins from 4, and to begin just gone, you put up 6-24 against Bullock. I always pronounce that name wrong, so forgive my pronunciation there. Just going through it, Patrick Burhan scored 2-2, Conor Nolan got 8 points, Shawnee Cahalan got 1-2, Cotton Maguire got 1-6. How good a preparation is that ahead of the championship game against Fermoy this Sunday?
Well, I think that it wasn't be great for us, because I think the Bullock game didn't show the real thing, because I think Bullock were weak enough on the night, and for us, I think championship football is way different than a league game, and I wouldn't be taking much of that into next weekend. Next weekend is going to be totally different. And
one of your big tasks, one of the hard jobs, is obviously Castlehaven, and it's because of your success that you've so many fellas on different kind of county teams, with obviously David Cahalan with the Cork Hurlers, and you've Mark Collins, Brian Hurley and Michael Hurley in with the Cork Senior Footballers. But as great as that is to have these fellas playing at the top level, but to integrate them back in then when they come back to the club, like, you don't see them too much of the year. So is that a challenge then for you?
It is and it isn't, because they're great ambassadors for the club, really. Like, they're great players, these guys, and when they go out, they represent the club really well with Cork, and when they come back, then they come back in, and I think the other lads that are training within the team all the year, like, it boosts them when they come back, and it gives them a big lift. Now, if you're playing games without them, it does handicap you small bit, because of course your better players are missing. But when they come together and when it gels, they're a joy to watch, really.
Are those county fellas, are they the fellas you look for leadership then when it comes to the championship?
Oh, definitely. You look for your leaders, like, and you look for guys that's been through the mill before, and fellas that have done it at Cork level, and has done it in Castlehaven level, at senior level before. There's a good few fellas that haven't played for Cork there, that are on the Castlehaven team year in or out, who've always done it in the big days, and I'll be looking for those fellas next weekend to do that as well.
Unfortunately, Brian Hurley won't be involved against Fermoy this weekend. Brian damaged his hamstring there for Cork against Armagh, Division 2 of the Football League there the Sunday a week ago. What's the latest there, Mike? How long are we looking at Brian out for now?
Well, I think Brian's about 4 or 5 weeks anyway. I think that's the least, I think, and it's a pity, because really he was just coming on fire there against Armagh. He got 2 goals, and and for us there, he was just coming into it. I was looking forward to him being playing, but he's out now for 4 or 5 weeks.
The hope is we all hope to see Finnegan Brian Hurley back to his sharp like he was a couple of years ago. He's when Brian is fit and playing well, he's a fabulous asset.
Oh, he's a great bit of stuff, and a great player, and like a real nice lad as well, and has a great attitude to football, and like, he's been through the mill, like I said, with his injuries, like, but when you just about coming right, he gets another injury, but I think this is going to be okay, and maybe in 5 weeks' time again, hopefully he'll be back into it and doing what he does best, putting the ball in the back of the net.
Looking ahead to Sunday, so against Fermoy, what sort of challenge you expecting off them?
I'm expecting a big challenge from Fermoy, because I haven't seen him myself, but I've heard a bit about him, and they're doing very well in the league. They won the Intermediate Championship last year, and they're up. They're a winning mentality inside them. They're going to be really tough to beat. They're a good side.
Have you set Haven a target this year, Mike, in terms of the championship? It's 2013, even though it doesn't seem like that long ago since Castlehaven last won the County Senior Football Championship. But have you set a target in terms of county semi-final, county final for this team, or what's the expectation?
Well, expectations is always going to be high in Castlehaven, but for me, the most important one is next weekend, and that's what I look for. I look forward to the next game all the time, and I say, if we look too far ahead, then we get lost where we are, and I think always look at the next step, and the next step for us is Fermoy next Sunday.
Okay, we're going to just throw this out a small bit broader now. The county championship, we're looking at maybe teams that will be involved at the business end. Are we looking at the same? Are we looking at the Bars, the Nemo, Castlehaven, New Hope, Carrigaline Rangers, or can you see a kind of a dark horse coming out of the pack?
Well, it's hard to say. Like, like Bandon could be thereabouts. Skib here won the West Cork this year, and they're improving as well. Then you have divisions as well. You have likes of Duhallow, UCC are coming through that side there as well. So there's going to be a lot of competition when it comes down to the last 8, I think, for honours, this year.
And as a manager now, coaching a team in the Senior Football Championship, again, it's a step up for you. Like, how much are you looking forward to the championship ahead?
I'm looking forward to really, Karen. I think we have a lot of hard work put in with the last few months, and lads are looking forward now. Look, you can play league games day in day out, but you can't be the fire of championship and the what the passion it brings to everything. So we're all looking forward to it. Like, it's going to be a big day next weekend in Brinny, but like for Fermoy as well, like, they'll come down, they'll be fancying our chances, and we must be up and at it if we want to win it.
One of the great things about Castlehaven, Jane, it's always impressed me. Like you mentioned there, it's such a family club, and the whole community pulls together. Have you got the sense of that since you've come back in as manager? The fact that it really is a unified community team effort here. Oh,
big time, and even like in the club, even in as regards training, all that, it's everything is organised and it's really professionally done. The whole thing and the whole setup is really professional. And support-wise, excellent. Like, I mean, it's been there for years and years. Even down decades now, this club has been phenomenal in what they've achieved, like from junior all the way up to senior and all the way into Munster, and done really well. And it goes on, like, there've been a few lull years there and they're saying, Castlehaven slipping, but then Castlehaven come back and win another county, and that's Castlehaven, and that will be the way it will be for now and the future as well, I think, And
you've some of the best facilities in the county as well, like with the stand that was developed there in the last year or so, the pitch, the dressing rooms, like, even off the pitch things are pretty strong in Castlehaven.
Oh, they are. The whole, like, the dressing rooms and the stand and everything, it's a joy to see, like, and it's one of the best in the country, really, I must say, and the whole setup is excellent. Like, fine pitch there and a fine pitch in Union Hall and a training pitch as well, and behind the main pitch in Castlehaven, and like, it's really well done. Like, the whole setup is there, and the underage system is well worked out as well and well organised, and like, the future is very bright in the club.
Just to touch on the underage system before we finish up, is it important that you've young fellas coming onto the team to push the senior fellas who've been there for a couple of years to keep that fresh? And who are some of these young fellas that we should keep an eye on for the year ahead?
Well, it's most important to have young lads coming through, because like, they're the future, and like, we're trying to breed them along there in the league games at the moment, trying to bring young lads on and give them experience, and they're doing really well. And like, when they get the chance or get the call to play in championship, I've no doubt they'll perform. Like, you've likes of young Kevin Donovan there now at the moment, who's playing well, Andrew Welton, there's a few more lads as well who are coming on the setup there, and they're doing really well.
No, fantastic. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck on Sunday, and no doubt Castlehaven will be involved at the business end of the championship as per usual.
Well, I'll take the first step first, and for my the next day is the big one, the most important one.
Brilliant job. Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
You,
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Welcome back to the Star Sport Podcast. And Kieran, you know what time it is. I know what time it is. And all our listeners know what time it is. It's the time of the week the people in West Cork wait for most. It's when you tell us what's coming up in this week's sports section.
Surprise, surprise. It's a cracker, Jack. It's an absolute cracker. Again, another action-packed sports section winging its way to...
Before you carry on there, I wonder, is there any sports section in any newspaper in the country, or in fact the world, that the sports editor wouldn't describe as action-packed?
I'm very biased here, but we are 100% #1. If you want to say
we're the most action-packed.
We're the most action-packed. I don't think there's anyone that crams as much sport into their sports section as the Southern Star. That's why we're #1, Jack. So and this week is the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah.
So everyone just pick up this week's Southern Star in shops on Thursday, and you'll see what we're talking about.
All good news agents, supermarkets.
Anywhere, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. But where do I start with this week's sports section? Obviously with the football championship, the Senior Football Championship kicking off this weekend. We're talking to various players from the various teams, from Ryan Price and O'Donovan Rossa to Martin Scally, Clonakilty, Mike O'Brien, obviously with Castlehaven. We have 2 pages on O'Donovan Rossa's under 21 West Cork win. We have the Dr. Herlihy Cup final, which is a very interesting one. It's Colosh the Pub Bantry won that. That is a competition that's running in Carrigaline the last couple of years, and it's for first-year football teams. And it's growing and it's getting bigger and bigger the whole time. It's a fantastic initiative by the Carrigaline board. and there was fierce interest in it this year. There was cup finals, a cup final, a plate final, and a shield final. Excuse me there.
We'll add in a beep afterwards.
So that's and Closter Pubble Bantry beat Hamilton High School from Bandon, who were going for the 5 in a row. So we have a full page on that, and that's a keepsake for anyone involved in that Bantry team. We also have an interview with Darragh McElhinney. He's our athlete from Glengarriff, one of the most talented athletes in the country, and he was representing Ireland at the World Cross Country Championships in Denmark the weekend. If anyone doesn't know about this event, the course was horrendous. It was so tough. It was almost sadistic at some points, and Darragh likened it to kind of Takeshi's Castle. It was just, it was up and down. He said it was the hardest and craziest course that he's ever competed on. So it's worth picking up the start just to read Darragh's interview on this, because just a little nugget from it. Usually when Darragh represents Ireland at one of these either European or World Cross Country events, the team goes out the day before to kind of check out the course, and they might run 4 or 5 miles. So the Irish team landed out on Saturday morning just to check out the course for the day after. They did 2 kilometres. He said he was panting so much after the 2 kilometres that he said, not a hope am I going to tackle that again till the day of the race. He just said it was horrendous with the inclines, mud pits, sand pits, water pits. It just sounds like something from the crystal ball from years and years, or the crystal maze from years and years ago. So we've that.
Well, I have to commend you for your old school references to Challenge TV between Takeshi's Castle and the Crystal Maze. Great TV shows, sorely missed.
I don't think they make TV shows like that anymore, Jack, to be quite honest. I'm probably starting to show my age a small bit here, but that's a kind of a well-kept secret. Also, we have West Cork League. The soccer season here in West Cork is it's pouring to the finish. In the Premier Division, where you have a kind of a nail-biting finale. Forget your Premiership, forget your Liverpools, and so on. It's all about Ballydehob, Drina Rangers, and Dunmanway Town. There's only 3 points separating the top 3 with a couple of games left, and the weekend just gone, Ballydehob kept their title challenge alive while relegating Spartak Mosgrove. So we have all that and more in this week's Southern Star Sports.
And for the West Cork soccer fans out there, don't forget, next week's Star Sport podcast is going to be a Beamish Cup special, so worth remembering that as well.
It is, yeah. Like you said, Jack, there's a big Beamish Cup special coming your way next week. I could be here for the rest of the night and the rest of the day talking about this week's sports section, but I want to keep all our readers in suspense. So just go out Thursday, pick it up. You will not be disappointed. And
as always, remember, if you can't get to a shop this Thursday, the Southern Star digital edition is also available to buy online, and you can read the Southern Star for less than €2 a week. That is less than a cup of coffee, less than a pint of beer, and all you have to do is go on to www.southernstar.ie/e-paper, and you can enjoy the sports section, the news section, the life and community section, the recruitment pages, all the pages for less than €2 a week when you buy online. But buy it in the shops. If you're in West Cork or it's hinterlands, buy it in the shop, because you can't beat holding that newspaper in your hands.
But we all know, Jack, that people buy the Southern Star for the sports section. I'm just saying. All that's left to say from us is thanks again for joining us this week. We'll be back at the same time next week, so make sure to rate, review and subscribe on iTunes, Android, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher or anywhere else where you listen to the show. Thanks very much.